Welcome to Exploring History. Today we bring you the most surprising curiosities of the Middle Ages. Get ready to discover what life was really like in a time full of myths and legends. The dirt we imagine in those times, people who don't bathe, rotten teeth, matted hair, people spitting everywhere, a focus on diseases. All of this is a result of what Hollywood has wanted us to understand, but it is a lie. In the Middle Ages, people also had their own ways of taking care of themselves, some more curious than others, and those are the ones we will show you on the list. Next, we are going to unravel the most striking curiosities of the Middle Ages. 1. The canopy bed is not just decorative. Who doesn't like the style of decoration that monarchs had for their home? They look like castles straight out of fairy tales. The curtains, the furniture, everything is magnificent. But I bet some of you have noticed the beds, right? Those large four-poster beds are not only an invention for aesthetics, but they had another, more useful purpose. Because the architecture of the time was not so good, many insects and excrement fell on the beds, and that is precisely why they were covered. 2. No hair and no health. We take into account that baldness has been a worrying and persistent problem for men for decades. Unfortunately for the vast majority of men, hair treatments appeared in the mid-20th century. Men of all social classes, including members of royalty, were informed about conventional treatments such as combining potassium salts mixed with fresh chicken excrement. They rubbed that kind of ointment on their bald head. Can you imagine the disaster that this caused? 3. A question of sharing. When it comes to etiquette for that time, we can imagine or hope that the upper class had etiquette. Clearly, let's not wait too long because we are talking about the Middle Ages, and it happened a long time ago. A very curious and disturbing fact is that everyone ate from a single plate. They took their food from there. We can't say it's much more, but royalty used only a couple of fingers to hold food. There were no such things as forks. 4. A flea problem for King Henry. Apparently, the records of that time of Henry VIII maintained a battle against the poor standards of cleanliness and hygiene for many years, but unfortunately he was not very successful in his numerous attempts to get rid of them. In his bedroom he had his royal bed, which was lined and surrounded by animal skins, and these were infested with fleas, lice, and mites that infested every corner of the castle. Enrique ordered large red X's to be placed on the walls to prevent the servants from entering, and courtiers relieved themselves in them, as several of their attempts failed. 5. Terror of taking a bath in royalty. We have all heard stories or seen movies showing the hygiene habits of European royalty, but many do not know why. Europeans had very excessive customs and ideas about what it meant to bathe. They even thought their lives were in danger when they went into the water. They thought that there was something called bad air that could enter through your skin, specifically through its pores. By taking hot baths and opening their pores, they thought they were subjecting themselves to many diseases and dangers. That's why even monarchs didn't take many baths annually. 6. The sacrilege of using forks. Its use was an insult to the Lord. The guest's logic was, God made us with fingers to eat, which is why the forks seemed like an unnecessary invention that attacked God himself. If you were very surprised to learn that forks were a sacrilege to our Lord, you will be much more surprised to know that it was not the only thing for which those who used them were criticized. They also thought that wearing them made you look very feminine, as if that weren't enough already. Some men refused to use forks because they looked effeminate, and they believed that only women should do so. With the passage of time and advances in hygiene, they were implemented more and more until they were common on our tables. 7. Anne of Cleves frightened her husband with her smell. Anne of Cleves was the fourth woman with whom King Henry VII married. He was well known for having numerous wives. Anne created a particular reputation that greatly highlights her personal hygiene that characterized her for a long time. Henry agreed to marry the famous German noblewoman based on just a portrait of her. When the day they met arrived, Henry was perplexed by the surprise that Anne emanated very unpleasant odors. 8. Queen Elizabeth and her desire for lead. At some point during Queen Elizabeth's reign, she almost died from the smallpox disease that struck her mercilessly. At the end of the disease, we know that the characteristic scars remain, but that could not be allowed. In England, being dark-skinned in those times meant not having money or not being classy. The Queen worried about being even whiter than milk. 9. Castles and confinements for bad smell. Hundreds of people lived in the castles of medieval times, thousands, and waste was a problem to be disposed of. The smell was a serious problem. Everyone's waste mixed together caused a disastrous and unhealthy result. Human waste abounded everywhere. People went to relieve themselves in every remote corner. Under stairs used to be a place, or near fireplaces. We are grateful that we can't smell anything when we watch those types of movies on television, because it must have been torture. 10. King Henry IV frightened with its smell. Henry IV, born in France, recognized in his time by all types of social classes for being a very good ruler for France. There are many reasons why he is remembered, and one of them is how he increased the quality of life of the French people. Henry helped France to be more tolerant in religious matters in those times, but it was not the only thing the French tolerated. They also tolerated his smell. Even his ex-wife had numerous complaints about his stinky garlic smell. It's very hard to believe that Enrique had as many stinking one-night stands as he did.